power?
We got the power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
Louder, louder. What kind of power?
Union power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
Who runs Dartmouth?
We run Dartmouth.
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 Make sure they hear it. Who runs Dartmouth?
We run Dartmouth.
Dartmouth works?
Because we do.
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 Union?
Power.
Union?
Power.
Union?
Power.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming out. My name's Logan. I'm going to be the MC for today. Just kind of talking to you guys, ushering people in, ushering people out. We are here today because we delivered our economics package to Dartmouth in January. And it's crickets still. Boo. Yeah. Dartmouth took several months arguing with us over whether or not they can discriminate and harass against grad students. So we're out here today letting them know that we're strong. There are many of us. The labor that we do controls the college, and we can withdraw it. So we're going to have a few speakers from the rank and file, but first up, we've got Ian and Kaya from the Student Worker Collective of Dartmouth. Their inspiring union drive in 2021 inspired us, and in many ways is why we're all here today. So give it up for Kaya and Ian.
Union!
Power.
Union!
Power.
Union!
Power.
It is my distinct honor to be here with you all today. Before either of our unions were formed, dining workers and grad students had long conferred with each other and saw the exploitation that linked our two experiences together, which is why it outrages me that Dartmouth continues to demean and marginalize these people at the bargaining table.
Shame!
Shame. At the same time that grad students provide vital services to the academic life of this college, graduate students at Dartmouth have been forced to contend with predatory housing, poor health care, and expensive child care. How is it possible that these conditions are allowed to exist while Dartmouth pours millions upon millions into vain remodeling jobs like there and there? How is it possible that these conditions exist while Dartmouth makes billions of revenue every year? How is it possible that these conditions exist while Dartmouth pays out over $11 million every year to its executive staff? How can they do all this, yet when the time comes to take care of their essential workers, they come to the bargaining table empty-handed? They had said similar things to us, the dining workers, when we fought for higher wages and sick pay. They told us that the money simply was not there, that we were an auxiliary formation of the college, that we already lost money on you guys anyway, we couldn't pay you anymore. They said this to us for months and months, and while they talked down to us and treated us like children, they sat in their smug self-assuredness, and we grew tired. When we grew tired, we grew angry. As that anger grew and the weeks rolled into months, we realized that we did not have to suffer this kind of treatment any longer. Because what kind of power did we have?
Union power!
And when the threat of a militant, crippling strike came to the door of Dartmouth College, suddenly they found that the money did exist. Every organized laborer on this campus knows where Dartmouth's arrogance will lead them, and it will not be far away down the road. It will not be a faint imagining that occasionally haunts their dreams. The consequence of Dartmouth's carelessness is real. The consequences of Dartmouth's carelessness with real human lives is on the horizon, drawing nearer by the day. If you think that giving these people dignified existences will hurt your pockets, you will soon realize how little you you can afford mountains of ungraded work, empty laboratories, and unmanned classes and tutoring sessions. For your own sake, come to the bargaining table soon. Thank you.
It is the Article 10 of our contract. It is the no strike clause, and it says this: a staff member, a dining worker, as I am, as Ian is, as members of our union are, may choose to refuse to cross a lawful primary picket line established by any other labor union representing college employees as a result of a dispute between the college and such labor union regarding the terms of an initial or modified collective bargaining agreement between the university and such labor union. A labor union like gold. There is something that I will never do in my life, and that is cross a picket line. I will never cross a picket line. And that is one thing that we will tell our workers, that we will not cross a picket line. And we will do it in whatever ways that Gold and other unions see fit that plays into a larger power structure. But that is something that we won't do, and that is something that Dartmouth administration should keep in mind. This is not the early 2000s when they sacked tens of workers in the wake of the financial crisis. And a bunch of undergraduate student workers went to the president's office. They delivered him a packet of signatures, 1,000 student signatures, and he took that packet of signatures and he banged it on the table. And he said, "This means nothing to me." This is not 10 years ago. We are unions now, and we are unions ready to strike now. The next time a president tries to do something even close to that, we will bring this campus to a halt. Nothing will work. We will stop everything. Solidarity forever.
Give it up for Ian and Kaya. When I say strike, you say ready. Strike.
Ready.
Strike.
Ready.
When I say strike, you say ready. Strike.
Ready.
Strike.
Ready.
Great timing. So next up, we've got Amini. Amini is a first year in MCB and a member of the collective action team, the CAT. And Amini is going to speak about cost of living and COLA. Give it up for Amini.
Hi, all. Hi. It's an intuitive thought. We have to live where we work. Of course we do. Most of us have to live where we work to undertake the duties that we're assigned. We teach undergraduates, we perform research, we attend seminars and job talks and meetings. It's essential for me so I can do experiments and bench work, which is often something I'm doing outside of your standard 9 to 5 working hours, weekends, nights, 9 p.m. on a Thursday, Living here has a direct impact on my quality of life and the quality of work that I can do. I'm lucky enough to have a car. I can drive in at night on Saturday, but I have friends and lab mates, and I've seen them without cars who live farther away than I do, and they have to deal with this additional mental burden just to be able to do their work.
That ain't right.
For this, our labor, we're categorically underpaid to live where we work. We're hired under the condition of living in Hanover and yet not paid enough to be able to live here. The average cost of rent in Hanover, where Dartmouth itself is located, is around $2,000 a month for a one-bedroom. I make $3,000 a month, post-tax. Most of you probably make the same, $36,000 a year. I pay half of that in rent every month, and I, like most of us, don't even live in town. I live in Norwich. Maybe you pay slightly more or slightly less, but my question remains the same. Why is the average rent where I am expected, even required to live, 60% of my income? The U.S. Department of Housing defines being rent burdened as paying more than 30% of your income in rent. 2/3 of our members fall into that category. That's more than 500 people, certainly your friends, lab mates, and coworkers if it's not you. It's most of my social circle. 500 people who are very likely sacrificing other areas of need in their lives, whether that's an emergency fund or retirement savings or something even more immediately essential like food or gas. 10% of us face food insecurity. There's an immense amount of privilege that has gone into my ability to be here. Consider that academia, the academy, has historically been and has remained an institution with incredibly high barriers to access, and it hasn't been that long since it started to change, a few decades. Being paid a living wage, a true living wage, one where we're not sacrificing our lives and youth and futures for our passion for learning, is something that we are owed. It's something that, when lacking, excludes those with less privilege, those with children and childcare expenses, those who have chronic illnesses or medical debt, or any kind of debt, and countless others whose voices we cannot hear because they can't be here. Some of you are here despite these barriers, only through a combination of extreme sacrifice and good fortune. Before you decide for them that they don't need to be paid a living wage, consider these barriers which many of us are lucky enough not to have faced. And yet, even if we win this, even if we win another historic increase to our stipend, it's likely it won't mean much in 10 years. Dartmouth PhD stipends have gone up $12,000 in the last 8 years, and the majority of us are still rent burdened. With the way that cost of living increases, either simply due to the national inflation rate or due to an influx of people moving here, any compensation that we're guaranteed in the contract becomes insufficient as time passes. Does your rent go up every year? Mine does. It has for the majority of my adult life. The $40,000 that we get paid right now means less than it did last August, and it will mean still less this coming year. I can't recommend Dartmouth to someone else, knowing that their ability to live where they work is not protected in any way. Recommend Dartmouth knowing that the pay that we are fighting for will gradually be leached away. For us and for the many graduate workers that will pass through this institution after us, let's ensure that we are paid enough to live where we work. We deserve the guarantee in a way which does not rely sheerly on our employer's goodwill. It's the ethical responsibility of Dartmouth, the college, to ensure that us, the workers, are able to fulfill the requirements of our job. If we win this, it'll be historic. It'll be the first time in the history of any higher education union contract that cost of living adjustments will be guaranteed. And this won't just impact us, the future and present graduate workers of Dartmouth either. If we set this precedent, it would have a deep impact on the many graduate workers that are unionizing and organizing across this country, both those that exist now and are bargaining and those that come after us. The cost of living is gonna keep increasing. Some of us have experienced firsthand the steep increases in the cost of living that happened during the pandemic, and we know that Dartmouth is unwilling to pay us enough to live where we work without external pressure. The college increased our pay by a historic amount this last year, yes, but only after we unionized. They gave us economic relief bonuses, yeah, but only after we announced a union election. We shouldn't resign ourselves to the status quo. I won't resign myself to having to fight Dartmouth for this year after year after year, as it is and will be a recurring problem. I want this in our contract, and we can have this in our contract. This is not an unattainable goal. The most powerful action we can take is to collectively withhold our labor from Dartmouth. We're doing it right now, even as we're standing here. Our work is valuable and essential to this university, and going out on strike will have an impact. For our security, for our futures, for every person unable to stand with us here today because we are underpaid, we must stand together to ensure that we are guaranteed a fundamental necessity, the ability to live where we work. Okay. Thanks, y'all.
Give it up for Amity! When I say what do we want? Say a living wage. What do we want?
A living wage!
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 When do we want it?
Now!
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 Sweet, thank you so much. A couple announcements before we continue. At that table over there, we have a number of things that we hope you might be interested in. First, we have snacks. We also have water. We also have t-shirts that are union made in Burlington, Vermont. What we also have on the table is a strike pledge. Signing this strike pledge means that if the rank and file of Gold vote to go on strike in April, you will honor that vote. And now it's more critical than ever. We have bargaining tomorrow. We need to let Dartmouth know that we're serious. If we vote to strike, we will do it. So next up, we've got Petra. Petra is a first year in IND, and Petra is going to speak about some experiences with dental insurance. Everyone give it up for Petra.
Hi. Thank you. It is very disheartening that many people will be able to relate when I say that it wasn't my intention to visit the dentist's office this academic year. As an international student, I've heard horror stories of the costs and in fact experienced them firsthand during an impromptu dental visit in my last job in the US. Toothache is a strange type of pain, pervasive, dull, always lurking for the right moment to be heard. A couple of months ago, precisely these sentiments prompted me to make the call. The clinic praised itself on its affordability, quoting depressive statistics about how often those without dental insurance visit the dentist. Hint, it's not very often. And in fact, half of us have not been to the dentist's office since starting at Dartmouth. The receptionist was indeed rather sweet, but when I asked about the cost, his voice changed, and after a minute my heart sank. $320 for the initial new patient visit and an x-ray. Another $300 for cavity repair with an additional $100 if I prefer to be considered an emergency and skip the new patient wait time. 2 visits in and I'd be $600 to $700 lighter. With over half of my paycheck going towards housing and groceries, that kind of expense seems rather frivolous. A few weeks ago, I learned about the basics discount the Dartmouth health plan includes. I was overjoyed after finding out that I'd get 50% off from my initial appointment. I went in, had my scans done, as well as a cleaning, and paid only $160. Happy ending, eh? Not exactly. The scans triangulated my pain to 2 old fillings that need to be redone, and while with basics we do get 20% off of each subsequent appointment, at this dental office it still means paying $280 per tooth. I mentioned to the doctor that I'll be going back home to Europe in a couple of months, and I didn't even have to explain that I likely paid the equivalent of $100 for both teeth. She gave me a little smile and said that it would be better to address my problem earlier rather than later, but that my teeth would be fine till then. I think besides the actual costs of dental care, what's almost more frustrating to me is the mental fatigue. The fatigue of constantly calculating what I can afford, what I'd consider basic healthcare, worrying whether ignoring the problem will result in an even more expensive visit a couple of years from now, and relying on finding a dentist in Europe while visiting friends and family. I think that dental insurance is an undeniable necessity, and whoever wants to dispute that should try to live with even a little toothache for more than a week. Dartmouth could provide dental to all of us and not notice the cost. The fact that they refuse it is an active choice.
All right, next up we've got Ankita and CS. Give it up for Ankita.
I need to be in uniform for this. Thank you. All right, hello Gold. As I said, I'm Ankita from the CS department. And as you all know, and as the others have said, Dartmouth has been really dragging their heels. They've been employing the most transparent delaying tactics at the bargaining table. Our proposals, boo indeed. Our proposals have been available to them for a long time. They knew an outline of these proposals even before we brought them to the table formally. And yet, they have not done any of the work on their end. They have, in fact, explicitly stated their intention to have this process carry on for a year or more. It is very, very clear right now that they want to break the momentum that we have right now. They want to take advantage of the summer break when some people will be away, and using that, they want to effectively disenfranchise us yet again. Just like they did when they tried to sabotage our recognition election, remember that? Yeah, and like the multiple times that they knowingly misinformed us about our rights as graduate workers. Others today have spoken at length about why and how the bargaining process is important to them, and to others like them. It all resonates very deeply with me. Obviously, I face the same issues in the day-to-day, and I will now add to that my perspective specifically as an international graduate worker. Those of us here on an F1 student visa cannot legally have other jobs. And this makes us far more dependent on our advisors or PIs for our existence here. Because being without an income is a quick path to deportation, and naturally, no one wants to make international relocation a frequent habit. Dartmouth knows that this makes an international student worker less troublesome. Less troublesome because they are less likely to protest. We are less likely to protest, they believe, if, say, an advisor expects 16-hour days without a break to even shower, or if a senior scientist in the lab sabotages work and steals credit, or if someone is groomed for sexual harassment and abuse. All of these things are things that have happened to graduate workers, and yes, to international graduate workers. It's shameful. And whenever these abhorrent things happen, especially when they happen to internationals, Dartmouth focuses on maintaining its image and offers little to no support to the people affected. They have been, of course, as many of you know, they have even been known to try and silence the people affected. Yep. In fact, Dartmouth relies on these things happening and getting away with them, because this insurmountable power differential is what makes us an exploitable source of cheap labor. And internationals become an especially vulnerable underclass, driven by our financial dependence on Dartmouth and on our advisors. This year, a section of new graduate workers were advised by Dartmouth at their orientation that internationals best stay away from union organizing or risk losing their visa status. This is highly illegal for them to say, but the fact that they were willing to make this illegal threat shows how much they rely on our exploitable situation, how far they're willing to go so that they can continue to feed on this horrible, horrible status quo. And simultaneously, Dartmouth creates a strange limbo between worker and not a worker, where my work brings Dartmouth value, but I am not valued. And where whether or not Dartmouth considers me a worker depends on which one makes me more exploitable in that moment. Most graduate workers directly or indirectly bring in grant money. And on top of that, many of us teach, many of us maintain lab equipment, order inventory, do admin work for the lab, and so on and so forth. Yet, Dartmouth wants to use academics as an excuse to make us dismissible at will and to recast our rightful compensation as a favor that they're doing us. They cannot even be bothered to offer minimum support for me to survive here, or even to deliver the correct tax documents which are crucial to my legal presence in this country. And this has affected a large section of international graduate workers every year, causing us immense stress every tax season. Meanwhile, if I have concerns about my research, I struggle to voice them to my advisor, because saying the wrong thing can mean uprooting my life for the second time in 4 years. As it stands, after all, my advisor can cause unmitigated loss of employment and the resultant deportation via the bureaucratic fiction of grades for research credits. And even under immense pressure to treat us better and offer us compensation commensurate to our worth, all that Dartmouth has offered is insultingly low and delayed raises that don't keep up with living costs or inflation, token amounts of childcare support that do nothing to actually empower the parents among us, and a meager $1,500 of relocation support that is too low even for moving from a few states over, let alone flying in from Asia and getting a new apartment and getting a new car and all of that. All right, what else do I have to say? The paper is wet. Whoopsie daisy. All right. Thank you for your patience. Please have patience for me, but not for Dartmouth's bullshit. All right. Yeah, so definitely not enough relocation support for international students and many domestic students as well, even after all this pressure and even despite them being scared of unionization, which means they need to be more scared. Laughably, Dartmouth has also argued that giving the needed support to international workers would be apparently somehow discriminatory to domestic workers. Which is not only false, but a clear attempt to divide us further along the lines of nationality. And amidst this bleak reality, where our employer doesn't care and we are far from home, our comfort has been the kindness of colleagues, most often other international colleagues, who provided the tax assistance, relocation assistance, transportation, etc., that Dartmouth always falls short of. Out of sheer need, international student workers have built dazzlingly impressive networks of mutual aid and collective power. This union and the involvement of international workers in organizing this union is the logical conclusion of our long-standing practices of supporting and protecting each other. Even if no one else will, and most often because no one else will. Meanwhile, Dartmouth's practices have been to craft misleading and threatening bad faith doublespeak, designed to enrich itself and exploit us. They lied about the election. They lie to and threaten internationals, and they are lying about their supposed efforts towards supposed consensus at the bargaining table. I have attended multiple bargaining sessions and seen for myself how transparently they want to misdirect and delay and diminish our proposals to nothingness, and how they only ever care about internationals when it can be an excuse to disempower everyone else in the process. Despite all this, international workers in this union have participated in bargaining, organizing, logistics, all of it, and demonstrated that we refuse to be an exploitable underclass, and that our voices will be heard alongside those of our American colleagues in this fight for greater dignity and empowerment in our workplace. And in this fight, I am honored to battle alongside you, my Desi colleagues from all over South Asia, who I see in the audience right now. And I also see my international colleagues from all over the world, and my American colleagues, who have welcomed me to my life here with far more warmth than our employer has ever bothered to muster. My dear graduate organized laborers of Dartmouth, despite our employer's dirty tactics to disempower, divide, and exploit us, we will stand strong together as we always have. And in doing so, we will win the stability, the security, and the power, financial and beyond, that we have deserved all along. Solidarity! Thank you.
Everyone give it up again for Ankita! When I say strike, you say ready. Strike. Ready. Strike. Ready. And what is striking all about?
No.
It's about having fun with your friends. So next up, we've got Leah from MCB. Oh, a couple more things. Next, on April 1st, come to our general body meeting where we will be talking about, among other things, striking. How to strike, when to strike, what to do. This will be our most critical meeting yet. And we hope that not only that you come, but also turn out all of your coworkers. Get all 800 of us at that meeting.
Hey Logan, where's that meeting at?
LSC 100. LSC 100.
Thank you.
When I say LSC, you say 100. LSC. 100. LSC. 100. Hope to see you there. All right, so for our last speaker, we've got Leah from MCB. Give it up for Leah.
Thank you. I think I'll stay on the ground, actually. Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming out today to support this walk out for a living wage. My name is Leah Michaels, and I'm a graduate student worker, and importantly, the single mother of a beautiful one-year-old. When I joined the Dartmouth MCB graduate program, I was not planning on having children while in grad school. And so I didn't know what kind of support Dartmouth offers to parents. And it was only after becoming pregnant in my third year of my program that I realized how Dartmouth consistently chooses not to support graduate workers who are parents. I learned that our healthcare plan does not cover lactation experts or doulas or birthing classes. And after I had my baby, Dartmouth provided 12 weeks of parental leave through combined support of Guarini and my department. However, if both parents are graduate workers at Dartmouth, those 12 weeks have to be shared between them. Dartmouth expects us to be fully healed and adapted to life as a parent in 12 weeks and then return to work full-time. And as many mothers do, I inquired about a lactation room at my workplace, and I received a closet with a chair and one outlet. No table, no sink, not functional. And while I was at work pumping in a closet, my daughter needed to be in daycare. Now, Dartmouth owns a daycare facility in Hanover with sliding scale fees, but they have barred graduate workers from enrolling their children. Compared to other Dartmouth workers, we are paid at the bottom 25% of salaried employees and less than the average hourly wage earner. Yet we are the workers who are denied access to subsidized childcare. Other childcare facilities in the Upper Valley are overwhelmed and prohibitively expensive. I applied to daycares early on in my pregnancy and was on multiple wait lists months in advance. Even so, I was scrambling by the time my maternity leave was up to find a daycare I could afford. I ended up paying over $2,000 a month for childcare. That's 2/3 of our monthly stipend. And for reference, what I pay for childcare is what the Dartmouth daycare charges households making over $190,000 a year. Dartmouth is selecting for the wealthiest employees at their daycare facility so they can charge more, when they should either prioritize their lowest earning employees or pay us enough so that we can all afford to live here. The cost of raising one child in the U.S. in 2024 is estimated to be around $26,000 per year. The bottom line is that without being on New Hampshire government support and additional financial support from my family, I would not be able to stay in this program after having my child. Dartmouth's policies make it impossible to be a single parent and a graduate worker. Parents, especially women, have been long prohibited from succeeding in the workforce by hostile environments and financial disincentives, and Dartmouth is no different. Being a parent should not come at the cost of higher education. And mothers, especially single mothers like myself, should not be punished for having a child by being forced out of their career. I didn't think that I would be a parent as a graduate worker. I didn't think that I would be in a union as a graduate worker either, but both are true, and I am so proud to be in a union that values the work of parents enough to support them. I wish I could say the same about Dartmouth, but through our union, we will show them just how valuable we are.
One more time for Leah. What do we want? Childcare. What do we want? When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Childcare! When do we want it? Now! What are we going to do to get it? Strike! When are we going to strike? Now! Now! Sick. Cool. Come out on April 1st. We'll figure out when we're going to strike. Thank you so much for everyone who came out braving the snow and the rain and the cold. It really means a ton to see all of you here. I want to leave you all with one sort of final task. If you want to win this contract, if you want to get this raise, if you want to get childcare, dental, medical insurance, all of these things, talk to your coworkers in your lab. You can start small. This union is run fundamentally by our rank and file, not our leadership. And the 8 of us on bargaining are not going to be able to talk to everybody. You can start small, talk to just 2 people, say, ask, don't tell, ask what they want, right? And what they want to do to get it. By having these conversations and building this solidarity amongst each other, it is transformative, and this is the basis of our power. And then sign the strike pledge, please. Over at the table, and people will be filtering out with the clipboards, and yeah. All right, who are we? Who are we? Who are we?